Now, as mentioned earlier, discovering and exploiting DOM XSS vulnerabilities is identical to reflected and stored. The only difference between these vulnerabilities is the way they happen, but at the end of the day, all of these vulnerabilities allow us to inject JavaScript code in the vulnerable web application. So the examples that I'm going to show you from now onwards are going to be a mix of DOM, reflected, and stored XSS. And you're going to notice that discovering them is exactly the same. I'm going to be covering several examples because XSS vulnerabilities can exist in different places, and therefore discovering them and exploiting them might be slightly different. And as I do that, I'll be covering more concepts and teach you more techniques and more tools. So the most important indication to the existence of an XSS is if the user input is being used somewhere within the page. Therefore, by manipulating the user input, we might be able to inject HTML code, which will result in a HTML injection, or we might be able to inject JavaScript code, which will result in an XSS. The location or the context of where the user input is being used within the page is very, very important. In all of the previous examples, the user input was being used outside of any HTML tags. What I mean by that is the user input was actually being displayed as text on the page. Therefore, we were able to inject our own HTML tags to get a HTML injection, and we were able to inject JavaScript code inside the script tag, and therefore we were able to get an XSS. However, in many cases, the user input might be used within another HTML tag inside the page. So it might be used as part of a link or as part of an image link. Therefore, you won't be able to simply insert your own HTML tags or JavaScript code because the browser will simply treat the user input as a link and not as HTML or JavaScript code. So let me show you a quick example. We have a normal blog website, test everything with it. Let's click on submit feedback and also test what's in here. And the first thing you should notice is, again, you should always look at the URL. Like I always look at the URL even when I'm doing normal things. I'm not pen testing or whatever. You should always look at the URL. It should just become like looking in the mirror when you're driving a car. So if you look at the URL, you'll see you have value or an argument called return path, and the value to it is a /. Now, this is pretty nice. In a real life scenario, maybe the argument will be called something else, but this is very informative and telling you that the return path might be this path that is specified here. But even so, assuming that that's not the case, you should always, whenever you see an equal sign, you should manipulate the input after it and see if it's reflected anywhere or if it's causing errors, if you can discover SQL injections, code executions, local file inclusions, literally everything that we covered. In this example, we're talking about XSS, so we're going to be looking at XSSs. And even before you start getting adventurous and injecting anything, just type some random stuff. So let's just type Zaid. Okay, page loads normally, no problem. Let's inspect the element or just open the source code and let's look for whatever we typed, which is Zaid. Now, interesting enough, you can see that this, whatever we typed on top, is being reflected in the page. So again, that on its own should be an alarm that, okay, the user is able to put stuff within the page. Now, the next task is to try to leverage this and use it to our advantage to either inject HTML code or JavaScript code. As mentioned earlier, we can't inject code here because everything we type will be enclosed by these two quotation marks, and the browser will consider it as part of the URL. So we'll have to find a way to inject JavaScript code within the current constraint, which is within the href value right here. Now, if you don't know, you're just gonna have to go to Google and look up the tag that you're trapped in or constrained to and see if you can run JavaScript within it. Now, I'm not going to waste your time by looking this up using Google, but if you simply look for JavaScript href, you will learn that you can run JavaScript within the href argument. And all you have to do is simply type JavaScript followed by the JavaScript code that you want to run. So let's do it. We're going to type JavaScript, and the code that we want to run is alert 3, whatever, it doesn't matter. And we're going to hit enter. And obviously that doesn't run because it'll only run when we click on the element itself. So again, let's just inspect it. As you can see, whatever we typed in here got injected. So similar to when we type Zaid. So it's saying JavaScript alert 3. Now let's click it. Perfect. As you can see, our JavaScript code gets executed.